What is it with you? What do you got, a death wish or something?
That's what it takes. I just want to race.
All right, Dieselheads, it's episode 13 of the Chronicles of Diesel, a show where we take you through Vin Diesel's filmography, gameography, discography, everything Vin Diesel. My name is Ethan. With me here, as usual, is Devin.
Want to suck on this?
I don't remember what part of the movie that's from, but
that's like to me, that's one of like the classic scenes of this film. That this very classic movie that everyone knows, very classic scene.
Oh. The movie in question is the 2006 film Find Me Guilty, starring Vin Diesel. That's what we're talking about on today's episode of the Chronicles of Diesel. We went through a full year of this show already, and we are still in the mid-2000s. How does that make you feel?
I was, when I started watching it, I was starting to think about it. I'm like, okay, we're going somewhere. We're 2006, but I'm just like, oh shit, 2006 was... I can't even do the math. That's how long ago it is. Just way too long ago. I mean, my brain still sometimes goes back to like, oh, it's still 2010. It's still like 2011. Like, we're good.
It's still most of our lives ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not even halfway through our lives.
We're
not 30 yet.
Yeah, we were 11 at the time. So.
Yeah. I mean, we're not even really into the heat of Fast and Furious Vin Diesel yet.
Which is crazy.
You know what I mean? It's insane. But yeah, so we've been at a full year of this. We did a couple special episodes at the beginning. We would have had a lot more if more of his movies came out. But yeah, we've been doing this for 1 year. I think this has been a big success for us. And I can't wait to do another full year. Now, Devin, I'm going to make you guess, because don't look at the spreadsheet. What do you think our 24th episode, our finishing of our second year, is going to be? What movie? Oh, you're not actually going to guess this. What movie would you think it would be?
I mean, my guess would be Fast and Furious, but I know that's one of the Fast and Furious films. I know that's not correct. It's probably something random that I've never heard of, like The Pacifier 3 or something crazy.
Well, I mean, you definitely heard of it because A, you have a spreadsheet with all of his films on it, and B, when we did our first episode, we talked about each of these films. That was a year ago, and I don't remember that one. But a movie is titled Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk.
You could have made that up right now and said, yeah, I told you about it before. I've been like, you did? I don't remember.
The notes I wrote down for that, besides it being a 2016 film, is a 120 frames per second 3D 4K film, which we will obviously not be able to watch any of those special things, probably, besides maybe the 4K when we eventually watch it. 3D. I don't even have a 120 hertz TV. That must have been special projectors that they had, not every showing, let alone in 3D. So it's interesting. But yeah, we're doing Find Me Guilty today, but before we jump back in time to 2006, let's review the month of March. What happened on Vin Diesel's 1 year anniversary of this show?
His Instagram, basically. Welcome to VNN, Vin News Network. I'm your news hound, Devin. I like to give you all the Vin Diesel news that's happening right now. As you're listening to this, right now, live. Sometimes we do get breaking news. Well, I think a couple episodes ago we had breaking news within the hour. This time, we don't have any breaking news. But I do have one big announcement, though. One that we've been watching for quite some time.
Is it another song?
No, this is something we've been following for a couple months now. It might even be several months because I don't know what time it is anymore. So, Vin Diesel. I get most of my information directly from the source. Vin Diesel himself on Instagram. And I've been tracking his follower count. And last month we were at 68.7 million. We were on the 60 million watch. And guess what, folks? Guess what? He hit the funny number. He hit the good old 69 million followers on Instagram. Damn. Let's give a round of applause for Vin Diesel here.
I wonder who is who his 69 million follower
I
was.
know,
It's
I wanna
not
know
me
who-
because I don't actually follow him on Instagram because I don't use mine.
I don't know. And it doesn't give me a. So I don't know when it actually. He's at 69,086,182. So he's already going straight to 70 before we know it. It's going to be
Interesting.
70 million. Could even be
Now, I
70
know
million
you-
by the end of this recording. Who knows?
I don't think you were tracking his Instagram count when we first started
No,
the show.
unfortunately.
But what's your prediction for 1 year from now?
One
when
year
we get
from
to
now.
episode, I guess it would be 25 after we've completed on another full year. We've started the new one. What do you think his Instagram account will be then?
Well, I started tracking this 7 months ago, and he was at 65.9. So we'll round that up to 66. So he's only gone up 3 million in 7 months. I like how I'm like only 3 million. That's a crap ton of people.
Yeah.
And at this point, he has enough followers to create a country of Vin Diesel fans.
Easily.
I'm gonna guess if he's going at a 3 million pace every 7 months, even like we can lowball it here. Let's say every 6 months, he only gets around 2.5. You do the math there. Maybe you're thinking maybe another 6 million. So maybe
75.
75.
A nice,
Yeah.
a nice tricorder.
Maybe by the end of the show, we'll hit 100 million. I think we said that last week or last time we did this, where I was like, I want us to be there for 100 million followers.
Damn.
And I think Fast 10 is going to give him a huge boost. Fast 9 and Fast 10.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
films.
Yeah. And obviously Avatar 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Oh shit! Yeah, he has a lot of
So-
like big name movies coming out soon.
As of right now, with everything that has been announced for Vin Diesel's stuff, as you all know, we do this once a month. The first of every month, we talk about a Vin Diesel game, movie, his album. When that drops, gets added chronologically to our spreadsheet. We will eventually get there. So we have a total of 39 episodes planned for the show. We just did 12. Our 39th episode is scheduled for June of 2023. And I put down Fast and Furious 10. Obviously, that's not when the movie's coming out. It'll be our rewatch review for this show in the future. Or anything new, we'll just do a special episode and we'll talk to you guys like when it happens. But I have episodes 39 planned up until June 2023. So I do think it could be possible that we could hit 100 million around that time.
I think it'll be way before. I mean, well, no,
Really?
because if it's around 6, yeah, I just think he's going to get
12
a big
episodes
boost.
a year. So that's 3 years worth of content. We already passed one of them. I think we might be getting close to 100 million there, especially when we're picking up Fast and Furious 9, and 10. And we joke about Avatar, but who knows, right? Who knows? I'm sure the marketing machine on that's going crazy. So who knows?
And maybe even we're forgetting the is the Eternals he's going to be in too
No.
as Groot.
If he is, that's brand new news to me.
Groot is in
Eternals-
something else that isn't Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought Thor is the new Thor. I think.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense because I know the Guardians are apparently in it. Because I know James Gunn was tweeting about how like he wasn't necessarily directing his characters in quotes, but like they took all of his input and like he's happy, I guess in quotes, with what's there. So yeah,
Because like,
Alpha.
how many
Group.
people like who don't know that that's Vin Diesel look it up? They're like, who voices Groot?
It's interesting. I wonder how many times because he's been in technically 4 movies. 2 Guardians and 2 Avengers, technically. So I wonder how big of a boost that was. So interesting.
But one other breaking news. This is relation to Fast and Furious 9. Fast 9. Vin Diesel's son, 10-year-old son Vincent Sinclair, is reportedly going to be in the film. Actually, they're going to be the younger version of Diesel's character, Dominic Toretto. This is according to Variety.
Because he has many kids, but he has one named after himself.
Sounds like
in a
it.
sense.
Yeah. Vincent Sinclair Jr. I don't know.
Interesting.
But yeah, he's supposed to be in it. That's cool. Quickly, though, Instagram. I don't know if we talked about this last month either, because I think it was around the same time. Fast 9 is now coming out June 25th.
Right.
Yep. He posted about it on Instagram. He has a picture of his kids, picture of him in the cast of, looks like behind-the-scenes people for Fast 9. He did some fan art, and there a video of a horse. That's cool. But yeah, not too. What Vin Diesel has been quieter on social media. And I think it's because he's working hard on Fast 9 or Fast 10 or Avatar 2. And who knows? He could be making music for all we know right now. So there's a lot of projects he's working on, it seems. And honestly, like him posting less makes me more excited.
Because it means he's working more.
Yeah.
Now here is my question, because memory's a little hazy. We do this show. We do a regular podcast, the Sonic Movie Show, where we talk about generalized movies and also sometimes video games and stuff. So I don't remember how long, like this was a while ago, so I don't remember the specifics, but Universal and AMC have a deal where their movies spend like a week or something like that in theaters exclusively, exclusivity and exclusively, and I combine those two words, exclusively in theaters for 1 week, at least for AMC, and then when it goes digital, AMC gets a cut in perpetuity, which is interesting. I know that's the case, but that does not state where digitally the movies that Universal makes go. So my question is, Devin, give me your thoughts here. June 25th, 2021, F9 releases. Perhaps we can go and see into a theater. Perhaps like our state of Maryland got its shit together a bit, and we're actually able to go, and it isn't like a big deal anymore. I will be vaccinated by then easily. You might be as well.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. If that's not the case, though, what digital platform would we be seeing this on? Would we be buying it on Amazon or renting it for $20?
A Vudu only.
You know what I mean? Like, because obviously Warner Brothers has their own thing, HBO Max, and Disney obviously has the ability to charge you $30 to watch Mulan a month before other people do, and they're going to do that with
Black Widow.
With Black Widow, which is, I don't know if I'm going to do that.
I'm never going to spend $30 to watch a movie once at my home. If it was in theaters, maybe.
Especially since, like, if they kept the same pace that they did with Mulan, I know this is a tangent, it has nothing to do with Vin Diesel, but especially if they kept the same pace as Mulan, it's like a month and a half later, 6 weeks, I think it was, right? And then, like, how many people would rather wait? Like, I get it. The group ticket purchases probably cost more than $30, but unless you and I like watch it together and we just split the cost, but even then it's going to feel like I spent $15 in that sense to watch it early because I'll still have Disney Plus. But in any case, F9 is going to be Universal's probably big movie for the summer, if not one of their easily biggest ones of the year. So I'm interested to see where this one ends up. I really hope it doesn't hurt in the box office. I hope at least by the end of June, like there is an actual hungry movie theater audience again.
It really depends on just vaccinations, I think, and also state by state laws and restrictions. I mean, I know that the federal government has said that their goal is to have everybody be able to get a vaccine starting May 1st, and then by, I think it's around July, as they want to have ideally everyone vaccinated. It's not going to happen because people don't believe in science, unfortunately. People don't even get the flu shot, you know. So but yeah, I think ideally you want this to just be in theaters only. But I can easily see it being like what you said, either a week, maybe 3 weeks go by, and they're like, okay, it's digital.
Yeah, because I think
it might be a game time
is going
decision.
to be doing that with all of their movies, but that plan was made way back when the assumption was, oh, by November we'll be good of last year. You know what I mean? So like, it's always
it was first
right?
By April we'll be good. By June we'll be good. Hey, July looking good, dude. Okay, maybe August, maybe.
Elon Musk says it will take only a couple weeks and it'll go away. The virus will go away. Well, that tweet was a year ago, Elon Musk. You're a failure. Is there anything else that Vin Diesel did in the month of March? Or are you ready to jump back in time?
Vin Diesel did not do any stupid tweets. That's what he didn't do. I'll say that.
Okay. I'm actually curious, though, because it's been months and months. Let's talk about this real quick right now. Since his last single, since his last EP,
December.
so to speak.
December. Yeah, I think that was.
It was in December?
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously he's working on a lot more music than he didn't just stop after 2 songs and be like, all right, I had a great year. You know
His
what
Instagram indicated to me that he's working on a full-fledged album, and that seems like those are just like appetizers. I don't know if those songs will be on this album when this album will come out. It could be next winter. It could be another year from now. It could just be an EP. It might not even be an album.
Here's my question then for you, because I have 2 questions. It's twofold questions, and they're important. They interlock together. Number 1, were those the hits for the album, right? Are those going to be the big songs, and he pushed them early because he wants to gain attention? Or if they're not, obviously, what would you want to see from the hit, a Vin Diesel hit, right? A radio edit of a song, and then B, or question A, part 2. How many songs do you expect to see on this album?
I mean, I think we've had this discussion before. What's an EP versus what's an album? An EP is like, 5 songs, less than 15 minutes usually. So if it's like an album, which to me is more than 30 minutes, could be an hour, could be 45, but it has to be more than 30 for me to be considered an album. So with that in mind, I can see these songs being like, to me, like usually put your single as like, I think this is one of my better songs on this album. But based off those singles, I feel like it's just going to be a lot of like that. And it's kind of just like you can pull from anything. Because it wasn't like those were like, holy shit, blow me away kind of material. Right. And if he is, maybe we'll be shocked and there's going to be some crazy like 8-minute.
There's a ballad in there.
Something in there that just like, just shocks me, which I just think it's going to be all 3-minute songs. And since they're only 3 minutes and they have to fit an hour, maybe it'll be like a 15-track album, and maybe one cover. Maybe one cover in there. There's going to be like something crazy in there. Like a not like a Michael Jackson cover, but like just like that level of
interesting. Because to me, I see Vin Diesel doing a cover of something very more close to the heart and wholesome. Something like I don't know. But I literally, the first song that came to my mind, just period, there was his own song, Taser Gone. Obviously, no, but you know what I mean. He might do like. I personally see him doing a very sweet song as a cover if he did any.
There's a song dedicated to his kids. Bet.
Exactly. Like Hey Jude or something, right? You know what I mean? Something that was literally written for a child. Do you think he'll do the Lil Nas X route of having basically chorus versus chorus, the song that gets played a lot more quickly than any other type of song on Spotify or whatnot, so that it gains a lot of money?
Those are kind of like that because they're like 3-4 minutes. Like I think Old Town Road is like 2.5 minutes, where it's that
really short. It's
catchy.
Basically chorus versus chorus.
Yeah,
or you know what I mean? Or maybe it was chorus versus chorus.
Yeah,
essentially, just so
that is the recipe. I feel like
it.
now, but you can easily make that really bad. You know what I mean? Like it can easily be like skippable. You're like, oh, this is gonna be the hit, and it's skippable. Yeah. But usually, like I said, I feel, at least with pop music, I feel like usually the song that you want to be played on the radio is your single. So if we're going off the idea that these 2 songs will be on this album, which I think they will be, that those are probably going to be like at least the radio friendly songs. Because I don't want to say that like, oh, there can't be songs on there that aren't good. Because I listen to a lot of albums all the time, and there's songs that I know that aren't like, hey, you heard this band? I bet you didn't know this song. Like I like those songs, more so than their like radio hits or just popular songs. So I don't know. I just think though it's going to be that, and then there's going to be one cover and there'll be one song dedicated to his kids. That to me is like what I would guess.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to see about the future of Vin Diesel, but let's take a journey back in time to the past of 2006.
Great year.
To the movie, I almost said hit movie, to the movie titled Find Me Guilty. Now, this movie, obviously released in 2006, was directed by Sidney Lumet and had 6 people producing it. Unfortunately, at least Wikipedia did not have pages for 5 of them, so they must not all be notable. because otherwise I would have. I always try to look and see what else do those people do. Now, usually, Devin, I tell you what the budget is, and then make you guess the box office.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm going to do that for this one. The budget of this movie was only, and it makes sense, $13 million.
Yeah.
Right? There's like 2 locations, really, What do you think the box office of this 2006 movie is? Based off of a real-life trial from the 80s? Late 80s?
90s?
I see 80s and 90s. I see late 80s and late 90s written there in many, many places, so I don't actually know. Obviously, it's not the 2000s. And it is, at least as of that time, and I think still as of today, the longest American trial. Ran for 22 months, apparently. So it's very famous, is my point. Especially given the verdict at the end, which is insane to me. We'll talk about it when we get there. What do you think the box office for this movie is? Budget of $13 million.
Vin Diesel's the main guy.
And it has, Peter Dinklage is in it, but I don't know if he was the Dink. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because that was a couple years later. He's in Game of Thrones. I think that's really where he's known.
He was awesome in that X-Men movie too. He's a great actor.
Yeah, he's amazing. Shit, my gut is just telling me like around 200 mil.
You think this movie made $200 million? Okay.
Yeah.
It made 1% of that. This movie made $2.6 million.
What
this
happened?
movie was a complete failure. I don't know. Maybe people thought this is boring as fuck. I'd actually kind of curious now to know what movies came out in 2006.
Was it just a down? That's insane. That's worse, I think, than Bloodshot did.
It's worse than Monster Hunter.
And those
to be fair,
and those
China
the pandemic.
would have pushed Monster Hunter instead of, you know what I mean?
But Bloodshot, for example, was just destroyed by the COVID.
Yeah.
Within the day of.
Let's see, because I'm really curious. All right, so this is the top 10 highest grossing films in 2006.
Okay.
Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest at number 1.
Makes
the
sense.
Da Vinci Code.
Damn.
Ice Age, The Meltdown, Casino Royale, which is the reboot of 007.
Yeah.
Night at the Museum, which actually did very good. Cars. X-Men Last Stand, which was bad, but also, like, big. Mission Impossible 3, which was amazing. Superman Returns, and Happy Feet.
Dude, so I forgot about Happy Feet. Holy shit.
I would love to continue to forget about Happy Feet. A Robin Williams classic. So I guess 2006 was a much bigger year for big movies than this one. This one
just was a stinker, huh? At least in the box office.
And I don't know about you, because we can talk about this a little bit. Personally, I don't think the movie's bad.
No.
I think it's interesting as hell. I'm not like, oh yeah, rubbing my hands. I paused the movie, got my popcorn, I can't fucking wait. I'm not exactly like that, but I'm like, I find this very interesting. I'm never going to watch it again, but that's true about most movies, to be honest, for me. I even have struggled watching like fun movies I love again. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I struggle with that. I just don't want to, personally. But I also replay old video games all the time that I played 10 times and beaten. You know what I mean? So I'm a little bit different like that. So I don't think this movie's bad at all. You know what I mean? What do you think?
No, that's why I'm shocked that like, but it also makes sense because like up to this point I've never heard of this, and I feel like if I went up to someone and was like, "Remember Find Me Guilty?"
A super famous trial. I feel like that would have
maybe like sometimes advertising sucks.
Yeah,
but it's probably just like that sucks stuff for Vin Diesel because like he's the main guy. Like you'd think at this point he'd pull more than 12 million people. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen movies before that, like, I'm like, this doesn't look good, but this actor's in it. I'm going to give it a shot. You know?
Just looking this up real quick, this movie came to theaters on my birthday, February 16th.
There you go. This is your birthday movie.
February 16th, 2006. Movies. I want to know. I want to know now. I'm super curious. What movies happened in that year? So let's see. me see. I'm just scrolling through to see anything that happened that was big. Final Destination 3 was 6 days prior.
That's
Curious George.
kind of big. Final Fantasy. Final Destination.
Yeah. I mean, nothing. Honestly, like, yeah, there's movies, but like,
I mean, to be fair, February I feel like is kind of generally like a bad movie month in general because people are kind of like, it's cold. Usually, you just had New Year's and Christmas. Expensive.
I guess Ghost Rider was still in theaters at that point. Along with Norbit.
I could see Final Destination kind of pulling, like the general moviegoer.
Wait, I'm looking at 2007 for this other thing, but those other movies I talked about, yeah. So yeah, this movie just failed, to be honest, and I don't mean that to be mean, but this movie just failed.
Granted, they didn't put that much money in, but maybe all the money went into the set and all that, and instead of like,
there's tons of extras. They're all sitting in the same spots, which means they're filming the multiple in-movie days in one day. So they're having a wardrobe change, but come on, that's not $1 million in and of itself. That's nothing.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I want to know like what their advertising budget was, because it could have easily just been like, no offense, Vin Diesel, but like Vin Diesel's name will just get people in the theaters, and like, but if you don't put your movie out there, you know what I mean, put it in a newspaper or anything like it. But once again, we don't know. We were 11 when this came out. So.
I mean, in addition to that, rather, perhaps the pacifier hurt him, and his name wasn't like an obvious, you know what I mean, an obvious, oh, this is going to be something fun. Because the pacifier was a stinker of a movie. I thought it was okay. You know what I mean?
We didn't think it was as bad as people
If
said,
I went to it and saw that in a theater, I would have said, I'd wasted my time. You know what I mean? To me, it feels like I wasted my time watching
that movie should have been a direct to DVD or VHS film,
or a bundle with something else you bought. So
with
yeah, so that's
Feet.
very surprising. Very surprising. Happy Feet. So, are you ready to begin our recap of Find Me Guilty?
Find Me Guilty.
And actually, before we do, not a whole lot of facts about this film, so I'm going to drop them all off.
Because the real facts are in the film, dude.
I mean, right? And so first off, and they say this at the beginning of the movie, that a lot of the dialogue is straight from the actual transcripts from the trials. I didn't look up which ones were which. I could have gone crazy doing that, but I didn't bother. So first off, the real life D'Onorsio, which it says at the end of the movie, he died during filming. He wanted Vin Diesel to play him after he saw Fast and Furious.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool, though. That's actually really cool.
Exactly. And to prepare for the role of D'Onorsio, of Jackie D being the original working title of this film, he gained 30 pounds for the role. I'm probably sure straight to his gut. Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say Vin definitely packed some pounds for this film, and I was gonna ask you that. Like, was he just generally like just was out of shape at this time, or just was like
it could be
for the role because he was ripped in the pacifier.
Yeah, but I mean, movie stinks. You eat a lot of carbs afterwards to feel better. It's how I do that every day. And what is sad and unfortunate, although, it's not sad because D'Onorsio probably was an actual murderer, so I'm not going to be sympathetic about this. They spelled his name wrong in the credits.
Damn, really? It's funny.
Yeah.
He had one job, whoever does that job.
So, this is a very interesting film about, and we'll talk about that, actual, murderers and how,
if not murderers,
the movie
at
portrays
least
them as sympathetic
accomplices to murder, and selling of narcotics, and probably a lot of other stuff that we don't even know about or will ever know about,
or perhaps we do know about, but not us personally, because the movie maybe doesn't get into it. Let's begin. So we're jumping back in time to 2006 here. We open the film with America's most shameless man, Rudy Giuliani, talking about mob guys. And children, we call this irony. Before we cut to a screen that states this movie is based on a true story, and that many of the lines during the testimony are actual quotes. And I'm personally going to assume a very large amount of them, besides maybe some of what Peter Dinklage says and our prosecutor says, to dramatize things, I can easily see, for the most part, everyone else's lines being almost verbatim. You know, I mean, they might have omitted lines, they might have added a little bit extra to make context for missing things, but I can easily see most of this actually being what was said.
I'm extravagant, I can see that being said.
I also find it hilarious that we see Rudy Giuliani. In
the first 30 seconds, and I'm like,
yeah.
Oh boy, because that's actually how he because he was mayor of New York City at the time. That's really how he got his name out there. I believe was because of this case, from what I've heard. Yeah,
that, and he was the mayor when 9/11 happened. So it's really easy to look good when there is a tragedy that has nothing to do with you, really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Then anything you do looks good. So, in any case, we are now outside the home of Jack DiNorsio, a.k.a. Vin Diesel, as his cousin goes to kill him and fails. And I thought this scene was actually very good. I liked just how tense the cousin was. I liked the music they were playing, how they were shooting this, or the camera work, actual filming of this. I thought that was actually very good.
As we beginning the film, or beginning the first 30 minutes of the film for me, there was some like shots that they did where I was very not taken aback in a bad way, just kind of oh, that's different. I've never seen that before. And eventually I stopped noticing it because I think I just got into the movie more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it did start with that, where they shot that differently than I think you do I've seen other action or any of those kind of scenes where someone holds a gun to someone or whatnot. But especially in the courthouse and whatnot, some of the angles they chose felt very almost closer to news. News
where there isn't a whole lot of movement.
Yeah, there was one shot that's behind the jury that reminds me so much of something you would see in a documentary, or like I said on the news or something. Be I can almost hear the narrator talking, from the whoever's, what's that person called on the news? The interviewer, the anchor is talking in the background, kind of saying, "Hey, this case is still happening." That. That's where I saw a lot of that. And I wonder if they pulled that from documentaries or whatnot. I'd be curious.
There was one shot where it was way up top above the judge's seat, off to an angle, and it goes from looking to the jury, and it just tilts to look over the other side as those people start to get up and
definitely
filter
had
out.
it more of
interesting,
almost like an eyewitness kind of shot selection, and I feel
wasn't expecting that from this type of film.
No,
not that I was really expecting anything.
Yeah, but so I feel that's. But where it first started, where I first noticed it was immediately in the first scene, like you said. It's pretty good.
Yes, he shoots Vin Diesel 4 times
in the hand, in the
really
ear.
Fails. But I mean, it's family that he's killing him.
Of course, it's always family.
It's always family. And of course, when Vin Diesel says, "My cousin, I love you," as he's in his mind dying, of course, Vin Diesel, of course.
Even during death, you're still willing to die on that family lifestyle that you love so much, even though your family's killing you right now, sir.
Yeah.
If my brother or someone came up to me and started shooting me, I'd be like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" I wouldn't be like, "What? Yo, brother,
he just
what's
needs
happening?"
some help. Yeah. Yeah. In the hospital, the police talk to DiNorsio to try to get him to tell them who shot him, but Vin Diesel's hairline refuses to speak. He then tells his daughter to never call the cops, always call Saul. And while I've never watched that Breaking Bad spinoff, that was the first thing that came to mind.
Is Saul? I always thought that was a name. Is that a type of person?
I think it's just a very common Italian name. Then maybe
a common Italian name that you also go to for help.
They get a lawyer for him. Yeah, yeah. And so obviously they know who DiNorsio is, and they know, but it would. Yeah, he just doesn't want to speak. And this couple sections of this film cut so rapidly, I had to really kind of piece in my mind what was happening. I thought some of it was super flashbacks, but they weren't. In any case, right after this, Vin Diesel is then eating lunch with his lawyer, Rizzo, talking about him getting shot. And then we quickly cut to D'Norcio and another guy getting arrested. D'Norcio is going to spend 30 years in prison. This happens very quickly. What I think happened was the lunch was a year after he was shot, and then he gets busted with this other guy like a couple days later.
All of a sudden he was just like
that.
selling cocaine. Like it just was very like. I get why they need to show him getting shot because obviously that comes back around towards the latter end of the film and in the case in general. It was like that was the whole setup of the case. It was like that was the one they were most worried about was him. And yeah, it was just very random for him to be like all of a sudden he's like doing a drug deal and like the cops come in almost like a sitcom or something like, hey guys, like what's going again with this? Come on. You know what I mean? That's not the energy I got, but then they're like, no, you're actually just going to jail for 30 years.
Damn. Yeah, and his lawyer sucks. D'Norcio was like asleep. He had, I guess, sleep apnea. Or at least that's what he thinks he has. He was standing there and he was just falling asleep. He's like, you have 30 years. That's it. So, wow. After 8 of those years, D'Norcio is taken to a federal building. He's been spending time in just this regular jail. He's gotten comfortable. He's got all that stuff in there. It's lived in for sure. And he knows the guys very well, so to speak.
Yeah, he's like friends with the one like security guard or whatnot. Like they're like he's taking a shit or whatever, and the guard comes in. He's like, "Hey, you gotta go." He's like, "Really?" Like it's not like he didn't go in there to start hitting him with a baton or whatnot. Like you see later on in the film when those other cops treat him, those security guards treat him different.
Yeah. So he's taken to a federal building where a proposition is made by I forget this character's name, but the main prosecutor guy, who says basically we have everything. We're gonna take your entire family down. You can make it easier for us, and we'll make your sentence easier for you. Testify in this giant, potentially year-long trial, and a sentence will be reduced. But Jackie D. D'Norcio declines. Of course he does. He would never rat out his family. Because, of course, Vin Diesel doesn't.
Honestly, maybe that's why. Another reason why. What's his name?
The real D'Norcio.
Yeah, D'Norcio. Probably picked him. He's like, hey, he loves family too. That's like me.
Yeah,
I'm Dominic Toretto.
Yeah, and of course, obviously, as we know, Vin Diesel can pass as Italian and also pass as black. You know what I mean? He's in that middle ground where he can kind of be whatever, especially to white people that don't really know any better. You know what I mean? So it's very easy for him to jump into this Italian role. So D'Norcio argues with Rizzo and is moved to a new cell. Rizzo basically wants to get paid, what was it, $30,000 for what was essentially nothing. You know what I mean? No.
I don't even know how you afford that without taking on a loan. And then you still run the... It's not like a guarantee you win.
Right. Yeah. The trial commences. D'Norcio meets a few old friends and a lawyer played by the Dink, Peter Dinklage.
The Dink, yep.
The Dink. Which we don't... At least I didn't realize right away he is the main representative of all of the lawyers. At least when it comes to we need one of you and the prosecutor, it is always the Dink.
Yeah.
Which is obviously why they had an actor like him be, you know what I mean, that character, right? So the prosecutor begins his opening and introduces to the jury all of the defendants, including a guy that looks a lot like Trump, LMAO. I wrote LMAO down. I actually had to pause it and take a look back. I'm like, was this a cameo? Because this is also irony. But no, it's just a guy that just looked like him. As one of the random people that doesn't actually have any lines. The defense lawyers begin their opening one by one, and literal days go by. It's on like day 5 now. Then Dink does his opening and tries to make the mobsters relatable. He talks about the big slogan on the podium, which some people I saw trying to point out that it's actually spelled wrong or something like that Latin phrase, but whatever. He does that. I thought he was pretty good in this.
I feel like that wouldn't even be necessarily the fact that it would have a typo actually makes it more realistic to me, because it's something that like Americans I think would just fuck up. Like it's like having a Japanese tattoo, but it says fish or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just slightly off kanji. It
Yeah.
has one extra stroke on it that a white person, obviously, that doesn't speak the language isn't going to notice potentially right away.
Yeah.
And it's instead of saying "you very strong spirit," it says "dumbass" or something like that.
Yeah, donkey face, something like
Right,
that.
which is just the funniest prank you can pull, honestly.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's funny that you said that. I'm just like, it wouldn't have made a difference to me in terms of its realism. But yeah, that was cool. That was a great opening. Great opening by the Dink.
Yep, and I like too that the fact that he has someone that goes to bring his podium. He doesn't do it, right? He has someone else that goes to do it, right? Because he is probably a very well paid lawyer, number one, but he holds himself high.
I mean, both the like lawyers, both the other guy, the prosecutor, and the defendant, the Dink, both like from what they were showing in the film was that they're both really, really good. And the other guy actually said at one point he's never lost a case or something like that.
Yeah,
and he's like, this is me the one though that really puts me over the top.
Yeah, I mean, especially as we know like how long it went on, and like I mean, it's very important, and like this movie builds him up to be the antagonist, really, but he's right. He's the good guy. He's the good guy.
They make him seem like an asshole, evil.
Like when he's breaking down towards the later half of the movie, and it's him and his assistants or whatever, and he's like, one of the jurors thought Jack or Denorcio was cute. These guys, and first, of course, because most lawyers are Republican, starts talking about how the taxpayers have been costing them money based off these people, but then jumps to, and not to mention the fact that these people are literally murderers. These people have murdered other people. You know what I mean? Like, these people deserve to be in prison. And it's interesting how this film shows this to be
It's
him
definitely
as the antagonist.
weirdly conflicting,
Right.
Where it's like, are you trying to you're trying to humanize murderers, or are you just really trying to tell a different perspective on a story, which is fair, but sometimes it does come across that like, hey, should we be feeling bad for this person, really?
Right. It's weird, right? It's very weird.
Is it really supposed to be make me feel warm inside, be like, you know what, good for him?
But in a sense we do. Now it's Denorcio's turn, and he wants to defend himself. He does his opening statement to try to make himself out to look like a goof to get the jury on his side. He does a couple crass jokes. He says, I'm not a gangster, I'm a gagster, essentially. And I mean, yeah, it looks relatable when you have a guy that, is unable to have someone represent him. Literally, you, the jury, see his like very pitiful, like, all right, I guess I have to do this type of thing. Okay, I'm sorry, I don't really know all the terms. I don't know what I can say here. I don't want to go too far. Like, it looks very sympathetic. You know what I mean?
It was like a waste of time for everybody too. You know what I mean? Like, why are we doing this? This guy is clearly not taking it seriously. I want to say that this scene and a lot of his like monologues remind me of his one monologue he had in
what's it gonna go back to Boiler Room?
To Boiler Room. That phone call, right, is really well done. And honestly, there's a lot of monologues in here where I'm just like I don't want to take this as a negative, but there's times where I forget it was Vin Diesel.
Okay.
And I think it's a good thing that like my brain's not looking at him being like Vin Diesel, Dominic Toretto, or any of his other characters, which is kind of a flaw maybe of him. His acting is that sometimes people just look at him as Vin Diesel rather than Dominic Toretto or Riddick, right?
Yeah, but I guess you could also argue that are those characters just written to be Vin Diesel? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like when someone's like, I have the perfect character for you.
I'm saying that this is... We haven't done too many films where I feel like he's playing a real-life person, and I feel like I got lost in his acting, which I'm saying is a good thing. That like
Right, yeah,
I believed
exactly.
his acting. I'm like, oh yeah, that's Vin Diesel. I
Mm-hmm.
think the haircut helps. Him having hair in general.
And his accent is slightly off of what his normal voice is, which is the Dominic Toretto voice, which is the Riddick voice, just a little bit not as guttural, right?
Yeah.
So that like and he looks a little different. The hairline, the fact that he's overweight,
Yeah,
helps.
But I want to say like just like up until this
He's
point,
getting better.
Up until this point, I was like, okay, he's doing good. And then some of these like monologues he has, I'm just like, dude, this is really well done.
Yeah.
I really like.
He's
these.
getting better as an actor. You
Like
can
I was
see here for
laughing, and
sure.
I'm like, shit. Now I know how the jury felt. Like that's important to like executing executing your character well.
and executing people because he's a murderer.
Yes.
We cut to the defense lawyers discussing it privately, the fact that he is defending himself, and then the prosecution discussing it. Both groups are conflicted about it. It's a very interesting scenario. During the next session, D'Onorsio tries to turn a witness situation in his favor by making himself relatable again. And you kind of see this, like, you could tell, like, obviously, so the trial in real life lasted 22 months. We are not seeing
Which is insane.
maybe even nearly any of the important things.
Imagine being gone
right?
from work or something. Be like, yeah, I have jury duty. How long? I don't know. See you in
Could
2
be
years.
forever. It
See you
feels
in
like
2
forever.
years. At that point,
Yeah.
like I would have quit my job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, are they gonna
Yeah.
let you back anyways?
But you could tell, like, they're cherry picking out key witnesses and evidence situations that D'Onorsio in real life had, like, good things to say, so to speak, you know what I mean? And then use that for this film. Because really, none of the evidence actually matters. We are not trying, this film is not about us trying to determine if they did it or not, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it isn't-
It's not what this movie's about.
And that's
So
what a
the
lot of
evidence
these-
doesn't matter.
That's what a lot of these, like, going back to like how it's shot like a documentary. I wonder if they kind of did that to kind of pull you in like that. But it isn't about that. It's about him, the character. And yeah, because like you said, it isn't about the evidence. Because I've seen a lot of documentaries or even movies about court cases where it's all like, here's this crazy evidence, and like, oh shit. And like it's usually the person who's the defendant is usually actually not guilty or something, and they're being framed for murder, and like there's this crazy evidence that just makes it look like they really did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right.
You know, we used to get a whole lot of lawyer shows where it was about innocent people and it's proving that they're innocent, and that got quickly replaced with cop shows where it's about trying to prove people are guilty. Interesting. Very interesting how all of a sudden that changed. But yeah, in any case, we are now on day 122, and the prosecution is trying to throw D'Onorsio off, so they take his chair away from his cell. He can't sleep without that chair. He needs to be at a certain angle, apparently. But I mean, you could also argue that he's not supposed to have any of those things in his cell at all, I would imagine.
Special
But
privileges. I don't know.
I really don't know. They then bring in their next witness, who rats on D'Onorsio, and he in turn turns it back into a homophobic thing. Is this junkie-ish type of person? He got thrown out, and they try to throw like, "Oh yeah, you were trying to have sex with me, essentially, and that's why we threw you out." Yes, whatever.
Classic. People in power who definitely aren't gay ever. In the mid 2000s or wherever it actually took place, the 90s, then yeah. Hell
Yeah.
no.
Especially, obviously, mobsters and just the Italian
Well, what I'm saying is
family
just like
lifestyle.
when I
like
think of a
that,
mobster,
right?
I think of just high masculine
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
So yeah, they would be the opposite of what the opposite of what that would be. It would, or you know what I'm trying to say. It's just
Yeah, exactly. Also, I like to point out, whenever they're bringing up these witnesses and all that, one of the main things that the prosecution is trying to do is to pin the main mob guy, Nick, actually to the deeds and deals of their operations. Because if they can't prove that Nick got money out of this at all, then he's innocent. They need to tie him getting a cut of whatever deal. And for the most part, Nick seems like he's been very smart, and it's very few people actually see him get money or know that he gets money, so to speak, because then Nick, that guy, wants Denorcio dead or worse because he thinks Denorcio is going to get himself free from the trial by ruining everyone else. He's going to get the jury on his side only to get himself free because this is such a complicated case. It can go anywhere. They don't have to rule on the group. They do at the end of this movie, but they could very easily rule on very specific people, or the trial can split as it tries to do at one point by isolating certain people. They could split it into two separate things. They can find, yep, Nick is super innocent and all these other people were doing it. You know what I mean? He's separated, right? Mm-hmm. So Nick thinks that Denorcio is going to try to do that. The next session features an FBI agent, and Denorcio tries to pull the race card on him, but gets a little too rowdy. Nick then threatens Denorcio. And he essentially, you remember this scene, obviously. This is the, how do you know all of us were Italian? Or, you know what I mean? Kind of a thing. And I thought that was very, very interesting. That they had black people on that jury, and they didn't try to pull that sympathizing type of thing. They did the Irish thing, where it's an easy stereotype to throw out of like the drunk Irishman at the bar type of thing, right? But they don't go any further with that.
That was one of the few times I'm just like, they have a point.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, how do you actually argue that if you don't have any like evidence besides just like hearsay when you were sitting in the whatever it was, the bar or whatever, the diner?
I think that if this, happened the way it happened in the real life trial, it might have been a thing where they just knew those people and they wanted to prove something. So without any reason to, they tracked, you know what I mean? They entered it, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't have any reason. So therefore in the trial, they couldn't say that we just walked in because we wanted to prove that you guys were bad guys. Even though they probably were. But also at the same time, all cops are bastards. So I don't know who to root for. The lawyers meet with the judge to decide if Denorcio should be severed from the trial and tried separately. Denorcio apologizes to the judge. Nick mocks him. And then one of the defendants almost dies or something. And that was very interesting too. So obviously, we'll take it step by step here. I think Vin Diesel's apology was both pretty good, but at the same time, obviously, like, a little ham-fisted. But what else are you supposed to do? Just not apologize?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I agree. Yeah.
I'm surprised Nick mocking him as openly and loudly didn't get him penalized in any sense. Perhaps that part didn't happen in real life. So obviously they're not going to change how the trial worked because of it. And then, yeah, what did you think about the one dude that just, like, has a stroke or whatever? Like,
I think they were just trying to show, like, it felt random, but then, like, the more I sat on it, I thought that it makes sense. I mean, if it happened in real life, then it happened. And I feel like, honestly, yeah, you could have, I guess, not shown it. But I think it just added it made it less. I mean, it was about Vin Diesel's character, but it also, like, just showed that, like, oh, there's other people stressing out about this. Like, you don't have a heart attack unless you're probably, I mean, he's old, but also I think the stress of going there and, like, hey, you could go to jail for the rest of your life probably has that pressure on there.
It's been like 130 days at least by
yeah,
this
because they show the prosecutor, team freaking out, stressing out multiple times, and I feel like it's just they needed to show that, like, they all weren't, the mob wasn't all just, like, confident. Like, they really weren't, and some of them were having heart attacks. So I also thought it was comic relief too at some points, especially the point where they lift the medical bed over, like, the wall
when we finally come back around.
Yeah.
Now, at first, my thought was that perhaps Nick had tried to kill that man, or maybe it was something like that, like it was in a thing like that. But that was never brought up in any sense of the matter. It was kind of just he's in the bed now. So that's interesting. So that's why it made me think later on, like, it is probably just what you were kind of saying. The court will be adjourned until the defendant can properly testify. Denorcio will stay in this trial. He is just so lovable that they need him there. And to be quite honest, the prosecution kind of wants him there too, because that's how they can tie their main witness to them all, is through Denorcio. Denorcio gets a visit from his daughter while he's in prison, which is pretty cool. Just kind of just talking to him. I think really they do a couple of these, I think, just to establish that he still has family, so that when he does his final things or he says the name of this movie, you can actually be like, yes, he has lost everything, because he is the only one that's actually in prison. So I think that's why they did a couple of these scenes, because obviously he got more than just a visit from his daughter and a visit from his father over the course of this 22 months, right?
Or
so
the 8 years, just one time.
Yeah, even that, right? So they handpicked here.
Dad, I haven't seen you in
we are now on day 367. Over a full year has passed. It has been over a year since the trial has started.
I'd be falling asleep in these. If this is real life, I'd probably be falling asleep. And I don't ever fall asleep, but just going to the same room every time and hearing like these people just do the same talks. Like the evidence, I guess, would keep me invested. But if it's just like, I thought I saw them do this. I thought it, like, I'd be like, Jesus Christ.
I feel so bad for the jury. But at the same time, they picked the wrong conclusion. But that's fine. The injured defendant has returned. They had that comical moment you mentioned where, like, they obviously can't fit the bed, so they have to pick it up, kind of a thing.
I like how the judge was like, yeah, he's got to be here. But yet, like, there's no accommodations made before he came in. Like, they're like, oh, we'll figure it out, I guess, when he gets here. He'll sit in the back.
It's also interesting that the security just let the other defendants, like, pick up the bed and carry it. You know what I mean? Like, I would have been like, no touching. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know what you're going to do. You're all technically, I mean, they had to make an accommodation to fit that many people in there. That's why they're all sitting at tables and not, like, in pews, right?
Yeah.
Just, it's interesting. I guess that was just the biggest courtroom that they had in the area, or even the remote area. So, interesting. The next witness is another FBI agent who the Dink and Denorcio nail for lying about a quote, and then tie him to that by potentially having him possibly lie about aspects of the case he just presented, certain evidence. Essentially, he tries to say how he talked about Machiavellian with one of the mobsters that he picked up in the car, and the Dink realizes that that's not the quote from Machiavelli, and it's by someone else, whatever it was. And he tries to call for lunch early so he can get a book to prove it. You know what I mean? And it's weird, like, so much of this movie is obviously based on the real trial. We don't really know how much of this is dramatized and changed for the sake of having an interesting narrative.
We'll have to watch
how much
all
of this was
verbatim. Come back to y'all.
Exactly, we are not doing that. Unless Vin Diesel was personally put on trial, we're not watching one for this show. This instance to me feels like this was a heavily dramatized moment, because how it worked was the Dink just kind of sets it up. It doesn't come to a conclusion. You could come to a conclusion, but how these kinds of trials work is everything needs to be written down, obviously in the transcript, but obviously it's very specific conclusions need to be made, because if you just infer things, it's not negligible. It's like not necessarily obvious to who got it. You know what I mean?
No,
if you're trying to make a point or prove something, right? So the Dink just tries to... The Dink sets up the fact that, well, if he was wrong about something that he's supposed to know, this motherfucking Dink sets him up like this. But then Denorcio comes in and says, so you could have been wrong about this, or you're supposed to know this important thing. I guess you're not trustworthy. So, like, in real life, I don't think that the lawyer person that
would
the Dink is playing,
it'd probably just be like,
would not finish it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He would have personally gone through that whole thing.
He probably would have been, at most, have been like, this quote you said is wrong, by the way, and like kind of left it up for the jury to decide if that makes that person, that witness, trustworthy or not.
Well, what I'm saying though is not that. My thing, I do think it happened, but I think Jack D'Onorsio just had no part in it.
Oh.
I think that that the lawyer that Peter Dinklage is playing had that complete thing where of like, well, you got the quote wrong, and if you got that wrong, and it's supposed to be very important, what other aspects did you get wrong? You perhaps could have gotten this model car wrong. You know, all the things that Jack says, I think Jack did not say in real life. That's my
sorry. Yeah.
But who knows, right? It could be what you're saying as well. I think there is I think there are quite a few moments in this movie that are fabricated for drama to make it interesting, for sure. So, who knows? D'Onorsio's father visits him in prison, and we learn that he's proud of him, but his mom isn't. Which,
who cares?
But we also kind of learn, too, that
At
his
that
father
point,
was
it's
also
like,
in the mob.
Yeah, but I'm also part of me is like, well, why do we care? Because like it goes back to the humanizing thing. It's like, are we trying to humanize him? And like,
Yeah.
and then it goes back. Yeah, and then also his dad is in the mob, so like, of course,
Or was, at least. The only reason why this visit is here is to establish two things. That he has not seen his mom, so that when his mom dies, he can again, at the end of the movie, say the name of the movie and say, I have lost everything. You know what I mean? Already. It's the only reason why this scene is there. And I guess so that they can also have the dad at the end of the film. But the dad wasn't in any of the trial sessions except the very last one.
where he's like liar,
Same with the
right?
daughter. Oh, I guess there's two. There's that one, and then the end when there's the actual verdict.
Hell yeah, that's
But,
my free son. Or wait, he's still in jail for next 20 years.
The next witness is an attempt to finally tie Nick Calabrese to the mob, by having him directly receive money, because all the other attempts were people just hearing that he got a cut. But this was also changed because how do you know he wasn't just owed money by the other guy? You know, he hands him $7,000. What if he just owed him $7,000?
What if they split rent? You know?
Right? Or what if he bought a car or something like that? Or just, you know what I mean? These people all
It was
have
a
money,
gift.
so
They didn't want it to get taxed, so that's why they kept it under the table.
they obviously did a lot of that. D'Onorsio brings his father and brother into the discussion and asks why the FBI agent would voluntarily give alcohol to an alcoholic who is now dead. Because this FBI agent was undercover for 2 years, knew and worked for Jack D'Onorsio and his brother.
I thought this guy, by the way, was the actor who played Sam in Lord of the Rings, and it wasn't.
Really?
I'm like, is that Sam?
No.
And I looked it up, and I'm like, oh no.
This is it. One more second. It's the longest trial I've ever been in.
That'd been super funny if they said that. Then I would have been like, wait a minute, this is definitely Sam.
So that's not a meme yet. God damn it. This is a very weird, and I think this is also dramatized too. Jack D'Onorsio, Vin Diesel, basically kind of being like, you're not supposed to hurt people, but you hurt my brother who you knew was an alcoholic by buying alcohol for him while you're undercover. So we get a scene of Nick and some other mobsters playing poker on a docked boat in the late 80s, where there's a flat screen TV in the boat playing a 2004 film or whatever it was. Someone pointed that out. I'm like, oh, whatever. It's fine. It's fine.
They're the
I
mob.
don't
Maybe they have early access. You don't know.
Yeah, they have flat screens, and before most people had more than 12
It
inches
also
of
could have
TV.
just been an Easter egg. Like maybe one of the cast members worked on
Yeah.
that film or something.
That could be.
I would do something
for
like
the-
that.
for
Fuck
the
your
most
realism.
part-
Watch the actual case then.
For the most part, for the fun facts, I don't like to put in the goofs or the mistakes, because they're not really trivia. It's just oh, look, they failed at making the film perfect.
God
whatever.
forbid.
But I thought that was
Yeah.
interesting. Also, they're playing poker, and who knows if this was like this in real life, out on the boat, because it's nice and a nice day out, except it's a really heavy overcast and it's not all that nice out at all.
And I'm waiting for it to
But-
a gust of wind, and your game's ruined.
I thought that the boat was going to explode. I thought it was going to be someone's trying to knock them out, blow up the boat.
I was waiting for at that one point, but like we need to kill Vin. You know, just I was waiting for that to happen, and that never happened. There was threats, but not like, hey, can you actually have him strangled in his sleep in that jail cell that he stays in every night, which we know where that is.
Yeah, because we have guards come and beat the shit out of him at one point in the movie.
Well, because that was because the prosecutors did that, but not because of
That's true.
The mob.
It's now day 463. The prosecution is tired, and it seems like the jury is leaning towards the defense. It's now day 521, and D'Onorsio is taken aside to the judge privately and is told that his mother has died. And again, the only reason
that was
why
really
they do
nice
this
by
is
the
for
judge,
end.
by the way.
Yeah, very hard to show not bias.
And he has, though. Like, I feel like there's moments where he's like, fuck this whole mob business. I can't wait for this case to be over. But also like, yo, fam, your mother died.
Right.
Do you need anything?
It's
like, it went from that to
interesting.
like, fuck you. Look, why you're ruining this? You're ruining my courthouse right now. I could have you tried in a separate case. I could have you just expelled, completely.
Yeah. But I guess we have to remember in this 2-hour movie or however long it was, we've covered up until this point 521 days. A lot of time passes. We don't know how much time Jack D'Onorsio has been mellow and calm and maybe not even said anything, right? So, like, obviously your emotions from day 4 are not going to carry over to day 500, so
I just find
who
it,
knows?
I don't know if that, like, how much that even happens in real life. Like, how often does the judge get to sit with one of the people who's being prosecuted?
But at the same time, his position's a little tricky because he is defending himself. He's technically a lawyer. Technically the lawyer and the defendant. And it's a weird multi-lawyer case, the largest one that they've had, because of, we find that out when they don't have enough room, so they have those tables. So interesting. I bet that was also dramatized a bit. So D'Onorsio's ex-wife visits him in jail, and they fight.
And
it
almost fuck.
Very obviously, again, just like his mother dying and just like how his father visited him and blah, 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 they just want to establish that he has lost personally as a person. He's lost, right? His mom died and he never even saw her. And he can't even go. He can't go to the funeral, right? This is just in there just to show that for the ending, to make him more sympathetic to us, the viewer.
Yeah, and it goes back to, like, my critique almost. It's like, are we supposed to be humanizing him, feel bad for him?
Yeah.
But at the same time, they do, like, or she's like, you cheated on me multiple times.
And he does not make a good case or of an apology either.
I think
his argument is literally a boys will be boys. I just need to do it.
I think he says something about how, like, my dick has a mind of its own. Legit. I think that's exactly what he says, or close to that.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, that's your argument?
Like, sorry. You know what I mean? Like, you are not helping your case there. So, like, it is.
He is helping the case.
Sure. Also, the officer, like, essentially sexually assaults, not assaults, but, like, sexually harasses. That's the term. The ex-wife. But I wonder if that was also dramatized.
Still ACAB.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, right? The Dink gets an offer from the prosecution, but D'Onorsio gets the guys to all vote no on it. And I don't know if this is also not true in real life, but according to this film's trying to portrayal of the law system here, the justice system, prosecution really doesn't give an offer unless they are not confident. You know what I mean?
I mean, I would have guessed that
can win it.
regardless, if I knew anything about law or not. If someone came to me like, look, would you take this? I'd be like, you're compromising.
Right.
You're afraid of losing because you're trying to get something rather than nothing.
I don't remember if he says this in the movie, because his offer was really quick, and then it was mostly on the Dink's reaction to it, and then the scene after. But it's been 521 days, and it could go on for another 500 for all they know. Perhaps this was also like, hey, we're both tired of this. You know what I mean? Like, I know I'm gonna win, but but I'll offer you this just so we can stop. Perhaps that was a bit of that.
He just because
he
did say it's like I just want them in jail. I don't really care how long they're in jail. I just want them in jail.
He wants to win.
He wants to win.
Know?
Yeah.
But yeah, and then DiNorsio has a rousing speech where they all vote no because, as the Dink suggested, it needs to be unanimous. Otherwise, the prosecution will pick apart them all, and then it will ensure that the people that don't pick it will spend their entire lives in jail. So they all unanimously vote no.
And we
thank God for them that they did that, I guess.
Yeah, and the main guy there who's been hating
Nick.
on Dom, getting all these goddamn Italian names, confused. Dominic, whatever his name is, and like this is the first scene where like he's like kind of like, okay, he's right, but I still won't admit it. And even after we get the verdict too, he's still just like, he doesn't even like. I was waiting for him to be the last person to be like, thank you or something. Never see him.
Nope. It's very interesting.
Fuck him.
Very interesting.
Family, but like family that never says thank you or even just shits on you all the time. Sounds kind of toxic. I don't know.
Yeah. So they vote no on it. So the prosecution gets the jail guards to beat the shit out of DiNorsio, and like they really do. And they even did like a the drill type of thing, like because of course ACAB. But at the same time, these guys are also murderers. At least this mob is. So it is now day 588, and it's time for DiNorsio's cousin, Tony, to testify. It's a long scene that involves pinning him on a dozen different drugs, which I did not know most of the names of. And then DiNorsio asks him a series of questions related to his personal shooting, their personal interaction, which kind of just breaks Tony up, really, because it gets emotional. I am a little shocked that if this is true to the real life trial, that they would wait this long to have their key witness be there.
Well, they're trying to do like you put all your cards out at the end, like so that's fresh in your brain. Especially it's been 500 days. At this point, I wouldn't have remembered. I didn't see any of the jury taking notes. I would have forgot what happened a week prior, and you're doing this over 2 years. I'm
sure they've been heavily encouraged to note take and just like refresh stuff. But at least in the case of this movie, obviously you want that at the end because it's the most dramatic. That's the climax of the film. Is that right? So they do that. Yep. He even gets Tony to say or at least tries to get him to say what Jack says as he's being shot. I love you, that kind of stuff. Day 621, and it's time for the closing arguments. We get a week of them, which is insane. I don't know how they're closing arguments like 5 minutes.
Unless they're not. I don't know how long closing arguments go for. I always thought they were like 30 minutes tops. But maybe not. I don't know. We're not lawyers, so
right. But in any case, we get a week of them, and it ends on DiNorsio's, who says the movie's title, "Find me guilty."
Hey, find me
Believe
guilty.
them innocent.
That's what he says.
Yeah. Obviously, though, I'm going to go ahead and assume that was real life. That's a very important line that has to have been the real life line,
or close to it. Yeah.
Right. So then take that into account here. So this isn't necessarily a nitpick on the movie, but a nitpick on Jack DiNorsio, the real life person. They can't think that the entire mob did all that bad stuff, but then find them all not guilty, but find him guilty. You know what I mean? Like, that argument doesn't work. It's just a really sympathetic play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These people still have their lives, their wives, their family. I don't. You know what I mean? So I'm okay taking the punishment, but please don't do that to them. But that doesn't really work out in practicality. But
and then also like you said, I would have been like, okay, then they're definitely guilty. You're admitting guilt there in some fashion,
right?
Either that, or that it's so heavily against you that I'm like, okay, so you're a loser, you're losing this case, regardless of whether or not I really think you're guilty or not. Just very defeatist attitude. I feel like it could be easily viewed as such.
Yeah. The jury is adjourned and is expected to take even a week to decide the fate of the trial, but it only takes them 14 hours. And this movie definitely plays it as if like they all went to lunch and then immediately came back.
Well, some of them went to bed
day.
or tried to sleep, and like it was the next morning. I think it was like early morning. They're like, they reached a verdict. This gotta be so nerve wracking because either like you're like, oh, if I'm the prosecutor, I'm like, oh yeah, it was so easy,
and it should have been.
But at the same time, I'd be getting nervous to be like, did they all agree on something like right away because of what the closing remarks were? You know, I mean, there's somebody like I would be stressing the fuck out.
Also, very weird that they have the prosecution go first, and then there's a week of all of the defense lawyers having their own closing arguments, as opposed to just one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that doesn't feel fair. You know what I mean? Especially if we're talking about recency bias and the emotional, like that's what a closing argument is. It's a ploy to your emotions or logic center if there's very obvious facts. You know what I mean? And all of the ones we saw were all
so right. Every
for
like
the heart.
Court like case documentary I have too, it's always that. Either one or the other for both. Either whatever side one does, the other one does.
Yeah.
Like, look, listen. The glove fits. Okay. But look at him. Do you really think, does this guy look like someone who would murder 3 of his kids with a chainsaw? I mean, come on now.
Oh, I thought we were talking about the juice at first, but the glove did not fit.
Yeah. Oh no, I was just kind of.
But he obviously killed her.
Yeah, I was pulling from that, but I was just going. I'm trying to make it ridiculous since
because if the juice actually murdered his children with a chainsaw, I don't think that we would be joking about did he do it or not to that degree. In any case, the result for this movie is not guilty. And in classic Vin Diesel fashion, the first person he hugs is not his daughter or his father, but the motherfucking dink, an actor he respects.
Yes, of course.
It's the first person he hugs. And yeah, they're all let outside. I would have been fucking scared as fuck for the jury that gets sent outside on the side window, and then just a literal mob is chasing them down. Obviously,
is that
it's
even
a happy
allowed?
Mob. I mean, if they were guilty, they would all be arrested, or not arrested, but like they wouldn't be sent outside.
I know, but I'm saying, is it allowed that like the jury gets to have access, or rather the other way around? That like if I just wait outside, like okay, let's say I'm a free man, and like. I just wait long enough, and then I wait for the jury to come out and be like, "Oh, thank you."
Everyone that walks out there at the end of the case they're just regular citizens again. So
I just think they would be like, "Okay, we gotta wait to let these people out, one or the other. Like, y'all go home first, then you guys can leave."
Maybe that's actually what happened, and this was a dramatization. But yeah, and then we get to see our boy Jackie D get carted away after he gets to look at.
And
his
when
family.
he looks back one last time, that's when I thought Nick would walk by, and he never does.
A piece of shit.
Yeah,
I mean they all are, right? Even Jack D.
But I thought there was going to be like some sort of like arc where like he realizes that like not everyone is family, and there was people there who really didn't give a shit about him. Not all of them, but people like Nick really didn't give a shit about him.
But he is just that big of a family guy. He's very flawed and is also a murderer. So I guess I don't really care too much about if he had any growth. But that was that movie. It was it's a very long movie.
I know after credit scene where Tony Stark walks in.
Exactly. Pays for his bail. It's not how that would work, but you know what I mean.
He's like, "You want out of here now? What's the catch? I want you to join the Avengers Initiative." Yeah.
You're gonna voice this tree.
We have this tree that can't speak, but we need you to voice him.
Exactly. So yeah, what did we think about the movie? I personally feel like this movie was very interesting. Watching it while we're going through it, obviously, like I said, this is not a movie I would return to watch again. Even considering the fact that I don't do that normally, less so than other movies for sure. I'm never going to go back to seeing this movie. I find the entire situation very fascinating because it's based off a real life trial. And I personally feel like, for the most part, all of the acting was very well done. for at least our main players, the judge, the prosecutor, the dink, obviously Vin Diesel. That's his name, dude. Stop laughing.
I know. I'm saying I love it. Maybe after Vin Diesel, we finish Vin Diesel. Maybe that'd be our next, the dink.
Anything is on the table except one person, and you know who that is. You're not going to speak his name. Although personally, I would love to do it for our famous boy there. You know who? Ouch! As I forget his name, Nicolas Cage. But
Nick Cage.
I don't know, Nicolas Cage? What did you think about this film?
I liked it. I like these kind of movies once in a while. I have to be kind of in the mood for it, and I haven't watched like a true crime anything in a minute, so it kind of like it felt more appetizing. And I'm like, once I realized what it was, I'm like, oh, that's cool, hell yeah. And then like, wow, the actors in it were great. The dink was good, and I was happy he was in it. I'm like, cool, I haven't seen you in a minute, dog. You're great. And yeah, I thought it was just I was kind of taken aback by this movie in general, because it was just not what I was expecting. I didn't look into this movie going in, but like I thought it was going to be. I didn't know it was based off real life. I thought it was going to be a lawyer film, but I thought Vin was going to be the lawyer. It wasn't going to be the
right, exactly.
Like just going in. So I was surprised by that. I think everyone just did a good job in this movie, and I'm sad that it kind of didn't do well in the box office, because I feel like it deserved at least its money back. I don't know why.
Right. But obviously, I mean, at the same time, it's not like they're going to make a sequel to it.
No,
so.
But like I'm to say, like, to get people to all the work they put in, and clearly, too, like whoever wrote this movie, you probably have had to watch the case, or majority of the case as well, and read through the case.
Oh my god, right?
So like, just that dedication alone is admirable. Like, holy shit! And the fact that like they pulled stuff from the real case and made it digestible. Like, they basically shortened a 2-year case into 2 hours.
125 minutes.
Like, that's impressive too. And to get like the main story, the story you want to tell, and have a start and an end, and have it be interesting. And there was never a point where I was like, all right, this is boring. I was just like, I was intrigued the entire time. So I really like this film.
I wonder what major audiences thought about the fact that this movie, if they even thought about it, how this movie is trying to make a very sympathetic ploy about these mobsters, and like their not guilty verdict is supposed to be a celebration. You know what I mean? And not like, oh, yo, what the fuck? Because in real life, granted, I did not know about this case and I haven't looked up anything about it since. I guarantee you, Devin, the world is like, yo, what the fuck? You know what I mean? You can't know.
I think there is, I can't speak for everybody, but I think there's a general, like, American, like, not, maybe nostalgia, maybe a little bit of it, that, like, thinks the mob is cool, or being a mobster is cool,
or that they're not real, so therefore it's not, like, an actual...
And if they are real, it's dramatized, so, it's not that bad. They just sell drugs, maybe. You know what I mean? So maybe that's part of it. Is like, I like they have, how many movies are? There's a lot of movies that have been done about mobsters, and you're like, wow, like taking. You're always like, wow, or Scarface.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that movie's. If you talk to people, a lot of people will say that's like one of their favorite movies.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I think there's like a nostalgia or a romanticization of being Italian and being a mobster in New York City. You know what I mean? Okay. So I feel like that's why people probably aren't as crazy about it. I feel like if it was, I don't know, just like a gang of maybe Irishmen, maybe it'd be different. I don't know.
Peaky Blinders.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's be my guess, is that people either just didn't really care too much about the outcome, because it's like it doesn't really affect them. I'm sure the victims, people that they've killed or had killed,
right,
are pissed.
Because
but...
they could have made a different version of this film where it was more so following like the prosecution and like the evidence and like the fact that these people are murderers. You know what I mean? But they didn't do that ploy, and I wonder if some of that came to the fact that the real Jackie D, and obviously the verdict was not guilty, right? Like that's how it worked. This isn't, so they had to probably get the life story rights or something like that to sell this movie, and therefore they had to maybe do certain things because of that. Who knows? But there is one verdict I am very interested in, because we rank the movies on this show in two different lists, two different forms, two different ways. We have our generalized movie ranking, and we also have a Vin Diesel performance ranking. So we just talked about our thoughts about the movie in general, and that's how we'll be ranking this for our generalized movie ranking. So to give you guys the list of what we have so far, our total of 15 things, because there's a video game in there, we have at number 1, Saving Private Ryan. At number 2, Triple X. At number 3, The Fast and the Furious. Number 4, The Iron Giant. Number 5, Awakenings. Number 6, A Man Apart. Number 7, Boiler Room. Number 8, The Chronicles of Riddick. Number 9, Pitch Black. Number 10, Knockaround Guys. Number 11, The Pacifier. Number 12, The Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay. Number 13, Multifacial. Number 14, The Chronicles of Riddick, Dark Fury. And number 15, Strays. So I'm going to throw this out there just as a starting point.
I think it's our best bet at this point. Once we fit like this many, I feel like we have to like just be like, okay, what chunk can we just get rid of right now? What's like the lowest we'll put it?
I think we can put this at the very least above Knockaround Guys. At the very least, I think this is at least number 10. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. And if anything, I'd probably put it higher.
Okay. Because personally, I would put this at number 7. I liked A Man Apart more. I thought it was more interesting. I don't think it was amazing of a film, nor do I think this is amazing as a film either. But I do think this is a better movie than Boiler Room. I think there is obviously real life stakes that were in play, so the drama feels a bit more real because what happened? Or maybe you knew about it, maybe you didn't. Maybe you were paying attention to the trial and you knew certain things going into this movie and were wondering how they were going to be portrayed. Perhaps some of that was going on. Personally, I did not have that. I did not know it existed. Apparently important piece of American history. I think it's better than Boiler Room. And as their list states, we think that Boiler Room collectively is better than The Chronicles of Riddick, and therefore obviously the ones below that. So personally, I think this is a number 7. What do you think about that kind of
thing? I agree. I was thinking top 7 for sure. I like it better than Boiler Room too. I just think besides the beginning part of this film, it took like a minute to get to where its main setting is. Once it got to the court, I think this movie was really, really good. And Boiler Room had moments where I didn't know what was supposed to, like, what we were supposed to learn from it, or like they were showing certain scenes, and I'm like, were we supposed to care about these people, hate these people?
Yeah.
Granted, that is an issue I think we have with this film, is that whether or not are they trying to tell us we should care about the mobsters? Should we feel bad for them? Should we still hate them? Is this more of just like, hey, they have an interesting story, which is fair. I think you can, in a way, show bad people their life. It's like, I'm sure you can do a movie on Mussolini and still it'd be interesting and be like, this guy fucking sucks. You know what I mean? At the end, you know what I mean? But like, hey, he had an interesting life, regardless what you think of him, you know?
Yeah.
Granted, I don't think they really did that well, if that's what they were going for in this film. I feel like they were really trying to be like, look how cool this guy is, and look how smart he was, and how witty he was, and how he really, like, you know, put it all on the line for these other mobsters to keep them from being clearly not guilty to from clearly guilty to not guilty. So yeah, I would agree. I like it better than Chronicles of Riddick. I didn't even have to even think about that. Like, I was immediately like that, but I do like it better than Boiler Room. A Man Apart, I forget how much I love that movie. So like I feel like I can't put it above it. Like you said, I probably would watch maybe A Man Apart again before I'd watch this again.
Yeah. Yep.
It's the easiest way to like if I'm on the fence, I just go with that where it's like which one would I watch probably again? And A Man Apart.
I think we have it settled. Our list is right now, and I will speed through it. Number 1, Saving Private Ryan. Then we have Triple X, The Fast and the Furious, The Iron Giant, Awakenings at 5, A Man Apart, Find Me Guilty, which is our new one at number 7, Boiler Room, The Chronicles of Riddick, Pitch Black at number 10, Knockaround Guys, The Pacifier, Escape from Butcher Bay, Multifacial, Dark Fury at number 15, and Strays at the bottom, which seems like that as it should be. So now, let's talk about Vin Diesel's performance in this movie. And I'm just going to throw this out there before we talk about the list, just general thoughts. I think this is one of his best ones. I think he did a really good job making us relate to someone that is not his typical person. Like, yes, Vin Diesel's all about family. Yes, there is a sense of bravado that this person, this real-life person, had, I guess, that Vin Diesel is portraying through this.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that this is a very Italian mobster type of family that Vin Diesel can very easily fit into that mold helps him in this case. But at the same time, it just feels different. As you were saying a lot earlier in this episode, it feels so much different than the other things he's done. You know, just looking at the list of movies we have, Triple X, The Fast and Furious, as well as even A Man Apart and Riddick are very action, cocky type of personalities. And really, those are the only ones that are like, this is a guy with a lot of lines. You know what I mean? Like, So taking that out of context, the other things that we have of him are smaller roles where he might be like this to a degree, but you don't get to see enough of it for it to really shine like this does. What did you think about Vin Diesel's performance?
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I forgot it was Vin Diesel, and that's a good thing. You should forget at some point. If the actor is really killing it, I think you have to forget that that's the actor and like, oh, like that's an actual person. That is the person that he's playing. And like, you know, there's like, I've seen roles with, let's say Matt Damon or something where, you know, he does such a good job. I'm like, oh yeah, that's not Matt Damon. Or like the characters, let's say it's John Smith. I'm like, oh, that's John Smith, not Matt Damon.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I feel like he did such a good job throughout this film. There was never a moment where I'm like, that fell out of place, or he missed it. That he could have done that line better. I think every line he killed, and let's not forget that he is going into this movie. He was the number one guy, and he kept it that way. I think Peter Dinklage is definitely a strong second, but he wasn't the main point of the film.
You're right.
But he did his job well. But we're not ranking Dinklage's ranking yet. But yeah, I think honestly, well, read the list, but I think this might be top 5
up there. So the list is as follows: number 1, Triple X. Number 2, The Fast and the Furious. Number 3, A Man Apart. Number 4, The Pacifier. Number 5, The Chronicles of Riddick. Number 6, Boiler Room. Number 7, Multifacial. Number 8, Pitch Black. Number 9, Knockaround Guys. Number 10, Strays. Number 11, The Chronicles of Riddick, Dark Fury. Number 12, The Iron Giant. Number 13, Saving Private Ryan. Number 14, The Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay. And number 15, Awakenings. And I also want to stress out for both of these lists, if you want to hear more about our thoughts, listen to the other episodes. We go obviously as in detail with those as we did here. So we're not going to talk about the minutia too much about every single one of these. So I went first last time. Give me a ballpark here for this.
I said top 5. I would even say top 3. Just now looking at this again. Like, he was good in Chronicles of Riddick. He was not the bad part of The Pacifier. He was fun in The Pacifier. I feel like he was the best actor in The Pacifier. Easily. A Man Apart, he was pretty good. Fast and Furious, we talked about how he stole the show, and then Triple X, I think was just peak peak classic Vin Diesel. Everything you want out of him, he delivered in that. Honestly, the more I think about, in terms of just, I think, once again, there's going to be recency bias every time we do this. I think we mention that every time.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, if he's not, this has to be in top 3. I just don't know where in top 3. I could hear an argument for number 1. That's how high.
So here's my argument.
Say.
Here's my argument. I feel like while Vin Diesel had the range that he showed in this movie that he has not done in others to a degree, and the importance of carrying an actual real life person's story to heart, I still think his role in Awakenings was better than this one, so I feel like this one has to be number 16. No, personally, I feel like, and this is going to be hard as we go on because we're just going to have too much of like, but yeah, though, types of moments when we're ranking these. To me, Triple X and Fast and Furious are too classic, too good, and too, like, just legendary. As you said, Fast and Furious stole the show. I think those two just stay where they are. Personally, I think this is at most number 3, at least number 4. Because
yeah.
I liked his role here more than the pacifier, even though I really enjoyed how funny he was actually in the pacifier. I liked this performance more. And as far as A Man Apart goes, I think he actually played a very typical type of FBI or military type of agent kind of person, sent out, comes home, the family life, blah, 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 revenge, that kind of stuff. I think he did that very well. But I think I forget most of what he says and more of what he looks like in that movie.
I agree. I have an image in my head where he's mad, wearing like a black T-shirt or something.
Same time, he did very well. I always have that picture of him with the cigarette in his mouth on the beach.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And he's got like the he hasn't shaved in a while.
Yeah.
So I think this is at number 3. That's my argument for that. Unless you have something that can make the verdict.
No,
of
like
this
I
not
said,
guilty.
my high is 1. But I already said I think it's the top 3. Originally, it was top 5. The more I think about it, like looking at like Chronicles of Riddick and Pacifier, and like how I don't love those, then I'm just like, okay, yeah, then it's top 3. But then is it better than Man Apart? I think so. I think it's will be more memorable for me in the long run. I think when we come back to this a year from now, we'll look at this list and be like, I think I'm going to remember more from this film than from A Man Apart in terms of just, especially some of the monologues he had, his execution on his, like the jokes that he had to do. Like it made me feel like I was the jury member, you know what I mean? Forgetting that this guy killed people, you know what I mean? I just feel like he really knocked it out of the park here. But I get what you mean though with Triple X and Fast and Furious. It's just so tough. I feel like there's...
Yeah.
I'm okay with putting it at 3, I think. I'm not willing to, like, die on a number 1 hill. Like, I don't think it's really worth it.
Well, you died on the Triple X number 1 hill. Because if folks remember back in episode 10, I wanted Fast and Furious to be number 1 so badly, but I lost that. So let's read off the list once more time. Fast round. Number 1, Triple X. 2, The Fast and Furious. 3, Find Me Guilty. A Man Apart. The Pacifier at number 5. The Chronicles of Riddick. Boiler Room. Multifacial. Pitch Black. Knockaround Guys at number 10. Strays. The Chronicles of Riddick Dark Fury. The Iron Giant. Saving Private Ryan. The Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay at number 15. And then Awakenings, which he had a tiny
frame.
extra. Yeah, exactly. Which will always stay down there, unless he just has a movie where all he says is the N-word. then Awakenings won't be. Then Awakenings won't be last.
Or I Am Groot.
No,
you don't think
there's emotion. He had no emotion in this in Awakenings. He was just a body. That doesn't count. Doesn't count. Yeah. So that was our episode of The Chronicles of Diesel, all about Find Me Guilty. This has been the month of April. Next month on May, we will be talking about kind of three things. We'll explain that. So what you have to watch for next month's episode of the Chronicles of Diesel is the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. As an extra credit, you can watch Too Fast, Too Furious, but he's not in that one. Watch Tokyo Drift, as well as another movie I have no idea what it's about, called Babylon A.D., 2008 film. 101 minutes. I'm loving these short films.
Thank God.
I'm loving them. So those are those, but also we are going to briefly mention the fact that he was the executive producer on the original movie adaptation of the video game called Hitman. We'll be mentioning it there, but we won't be reviewing it there. During the month of May, we'll be talking about that movie and as our regular Sonic Movie Show video game reviews at some point in May. But that is technically what's going to be on the docket. Maybe we won't actually rank Hitman because it really has...
We can maybe put it in the movie ranking, but not Vin performance.
Oh, we can't put it in the Vin performance ranking.
I mean, have we come to a point yet where we've... because when we did do Vin performance, we did kind of like, at least for his shorts, that we did kind of put in his director work into play. So I'm saying like technically we could be like,
we'll have to find out.
Executive producers a stretch.
So watch Babylon A.D., which will be obviously the main topic of the movie, and then watch the Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. We will most likely be talking about just the ending where he pops up as a cameo. That's why this is a double feature of a podcast next month. But who knows? Maybe we'll just fall in love with that movie all over again with Shane Black's really awful fake Texan accent.
Oh my God.
So until next time, this has been the Chronicles of Diesel. You can go ahead and follow the show on Twitter at Sonic Movie Show, which is the name of our main podcast. We talk about other types of movies, like video game movies.
Our family as well umbrella or whatever it's called.
Our Sonic topics.
Our one race.
Exactly. This is where we talk about a lot of other stuff. It's on this very feed. Go check them out. That's once a week. Tweet at me at Ethan Absolutely and at Devin on Twitter at CURSON on YouTube. Let us know what you thought about Find Me Guilty. Were you surprised as we were? Again, we walked in this movie having no idea what it's about, and we came away with the conclusion. I want to know what that happened with you guys out there. So tweet at the show. Let us know what you thought. We'll see you next month for another episode of the Chronicles of Diesel. Goodbye.
Can't find me guilty.
Burn.
What is it with you? What do you got, a death wish or something?
That's what it takes. I just want to race.